sitting with my arms behind me and my feet a short way in front of me. I've got my feet initially hip distance apart. So we're starting week 1 of 4, I think, on a Monday, looking at smart strength. So all I mean by that is the type of strength work that we need for our body. So obviously this is generic, but it's just giving you also an opportunity to sort of reflect on what you need. So have a think. So in terms of the runner's body, we're thinking core, glutes, we're thinking hamstrings, we're thinking calves. How are those doing in your life? And also how good your posture is and upper body. So we do need some upper body work. So today we are going to be using the whole body approach. And we're not going to be doing anything that's heavy strength training. So there's no resistance bands and there's no weights, which you might expect in a traditional strength class. So see how the yoga version goes for you. So for those just joining, we're sitting down, we've got our feet on the floor, about hip distance apart and arms behind us. So just see if you can relax your shoulders for a moment, and that might mean you're bending your elbows a little bit so that your shoulders are not gone up towards your ears. Just see if that's happening. If you can just release, you might need to just jiggle your shoulders around for a moment, just to try and loosen that area so you're not too tense. Okay, so we're just going to move our knees from side to side, so it doesn't have to be a big movement. It can be. You can take your legs right over to one side, but you can just move them like a pendulum momentum that suits you. So often we have our feet as wide as the mat when we're doing this, but today my suggestion is it's just hip distance apart. Okay, and just find a rhythm, and what ends up happening to me is end up walking down my mat. So just adjust your arms and bring them with you. So we're literally unwinding just to arrive a little bit. If you feel like you're tense, just let out a little bit, maybe more of a slightly stronger out breath, kind of a positive sign. And then once you're back up, just get back to neutral position. And we're going to do broadly the same. Let's take our wrists out for a moment, just to get the energy back in the fingers and the wrists. And if you need to use your knuckles, use your knuckles. Need to change your position where your hands are, please do. Otherwise, take the feet now off the floor, so that we're taking you back further on your butt. So we're going to be doing the same. We're taking the knees over to one side and see how that feels. So it becomes a little bit more core work, a little bit more going on in your glutes maybe. You might not feel that strongly. So one of the things, while we're doing this, I'll just have a chat to you. One of the things I kind of like to look out for, it might not be during, or it might be during the work, but actually feel a bit stronger, usually around the belly and the butt kind of area. So that's kind of a nice kind of result if you can kind of tune in to, am I feeling a little bit stronger? What does strength feel like to your body? Okay, let's pause there. And again, just shake out the wrists. Just change position just in case people aren't clear. Okay, so we're going back. You can cope with that. So we've got feet off the floor, this time knees together. So that might create a little bit more for the quads for some of us, as you pick the knees up closer towards the chest. And then keeping the legs together, just create the same thing. So you could touch your little toe down to the ground as you go from side to side. And your knees might come apart, but you're trying to keep the knees together. So for some people that will feel stronger, some people it'll feel more kind of stable. So knees come in towards the chest, and then that toe joins the ground. And then let's pause again. Arm shake, maybe even a bit of a leg shake while we're at it. Always nice for a shake to just loosen everything up again. Okay, so we're going to bring the arms into it a bit more. So we're going to You choose whether you have your feet hip distance or legs together, up to you, or you can try different ones. And just take your arms up in front of you above your knees. So there's a bit of power coming from the arms as if you're reaching forward. Make sure the belly's kind of supporting your lower back, so that means belly coming in. It most likely will do that automatically. And then take the knees a wee way to one side and the arms in the opposite. So we get a kind of twist going on, but we're having to work a little bit in the belly. We're trying to keep the chest, belly kind of reasonably in contact, close-ish contact with thighs. And again, we might be feeling different things in different places, depending where our kind of weaknesses are. Just looking forward, somewhere that feels you can kind of focus on one point without being harsh in your looking. So you don't want to kind of be really big eyes. You want to just soften a little bit. You might find you can sit up a little bit straighter. You might find you forward back a little bit. Well done. And then legs down. So that might feel nice to have the legs back down. Again, just a little bit of a shake. Warming up, warming up. Okay, so hands back down. As I say, you could use knuckles or fingertips, whichever's going to be supportive for you. Feet are hip distance apart, and we're just taking the bum off the floor so the knees come more over the ankles. So we can kind of, sometimes I say when we're doing bridge, kind of create that hammock, so allow the hips to feel heavy, and so you're not looking for anything particularly going on in the centre of the body just for the moment, so you know what kind of, relax my belly, I can relax my thighs, I can relax my glutes for a moment. And then come up onto your heels, so toes off the floor. So you've got more pressure now going through the heels, and just rock forward and back. So you come onto your heels, and as you rock forward with your knees, your toes come down. So just rocking forward and back again. If you can cope with that arm movement, with that in the wrists, try and have sufficient push from the hands so that your shoulders aren't sneaking up towards your ears. So there's a bit of work going on in your upper back for that, to keep the shoulder blades reasonably close together. Okay, and then if you can stay with me, as it were, start to push the pelvis up. With that, you should start to feel the glutes working and the back of the hamstrings working. And we're doing the same again. We're rocking forward and back. That's quite harsh sometimes on the wrist. So if you need to adjust or do a really small version, then do. Suggesting you keep the chin close to the chest, but you keep reminding yourself to get your butt up and your pelvis up. So there's a little bit more work going on inner thighs, outer thighs, as well as that kind of core glute area. Well done. Okay, and then let's come down. Let's bring the feet together. Yeah, so not sure which is the clearest way. Yeah, give a shake out. Shake out either now or once you've got your feet together. So I've got the soles of my feet together, my knees out to the side. You can kind of open and close the fingers. Let the circles with the wrists one way and then the other. Shake out if the shake out feels good. So I'm not suggesting, even though for some people this will be creating more of a lower back rounding, I'm not suggesting you do sit on anything high. We'll just hopefully cope with that. Just take the hands around the foot. So I've got my thumbs really in the arches and the fingers are just round the top of the foot. So I've got a little bit of contact. Shoulders back and down if they will go. And just wobble from butt to butt. Yeah. So it's kind of, sometimes it's easier to relax the legs and open the legs than pushing, well, shouldn't really be pushing thighs down, but sometimes we kind of flap the knees separately and keep the bum still. Quite like this version. It looks really good on film as well, so this is good. Okay. So this is the relaxing, to some extent, the kind of recovery position. Just notice how your breath is now. So you might have got opportunity to let the breath go if you were tense and tight. Okay, so I did warn you it's quite wristy. I'm going to come on to forearms, I think, which will give a little bit more respite for the wrists. So I'm back onto my mat. I've got my forearms down. Up to you whether you have your palms completely down or you've got more soft fists. Bums down at the moment. I'm taking my feet quite a way down the mat. I'm just lifting my bum off the floor. I'm initially keeping my bum quite low, reasonably low, and then I'm walking, well, actually almost like a kicking out one foot and then the other foot. So there'll be work going on in the arms and the shoulders, but there's also a little bit of work, might not notice it quite so much yet, in the hamstrings, so they may be feeling a little bit going on. So sometimes hamstring strength gets left behind, quite important one, but sometimes the moves are not that pleasant. Okay, well done. Bum down. Let's just give the shoulders and the elbows and the wrists a little bit, and everything a little bit of a shake. Get the breath back. Okay, so we're going to broadly repeat what we've just done, but we're going to take the feet further away. You're going to come onto your heels, your bum's off the floor, and again, you're extending one foot up, which is going to be much stronger than before, and then lift the other leg up. So you don't have to lift it up very far, and you can keep your knees slightly bent where you've got your feet down. So that gives a little bit of respite for very tight hamstrings. Try and push your chest up so that you're not collapsing. Chin is still to chest. You can do a few more kind of kicks or marches or steps. Then do strong. This is for me, might be fine for you. Okay, when we're down, we can get our bum down. Just for a moment, let's get the whole body down. And let the whole body kind of sink into the ground for a moment. Let the breath be free. And just get a sense of the weight of the body on the ground. So we would have given our weight if we were working quite hard for us on that, more of a hamstring, but it's a whole body thing there. But part of that is around hamstring strengthening. So just soften the belly, relax the belly, relax the butt, relax the inner thighs for a moment, relax the fingers and the palms of the hands and the eyes. So those, and the jaw even, the areas that get tight when we're doing strength work. And see how you feel in your body. So you might feel warmer. You might feel more aware of your muscles. Maybe in the belly, maybe in the butt, even though you've relaxed them. Maybe in the hamstrings, maybe around the shoulders and the upper back. So just noting that for a moment. And then having a shake out. So we can do it from here. So arms and legs can have a nice relaxed shake out. So get the calves going, feet going, the joints just loosening a little bit, getting more energy through the joints. So it's not bad to have the circulation cut off for a very short length of time, and then getting that rush through and we release from those difficult positions sometimes. Okay, so rock up, and what we're going to do here, we're on a butt again. Don't know if this position is going to be better or not. And taking the feet off the floor, got my hands this time underneath my hamstrings, back of my legs. That'll help me bring my chest closer to my legs. I'm just going to sort of swimming legs, so flapping the feet a little bit. Try. I know sometimes you might end up falling backwards, so keep hold reasonably tight to the legs so you can do a little bit of flapping then. See if you can breathe there. Belly comes closer into the back to support the back. and shoulders be released down, so you've got that kind of stability in the shoulders. It can become almost relaxing after a while, but not always. Depending how fast you're flapping, really. Okay, so let's rest the feet down for a moment. Again, if you need to do a little bit of shaking out, please do. Okay. And relax the shoulders. So, moving on a little bit with some similar, but a similar movement. This is where there's more risk of falling back. So this time, bringing my knees in towards my chest, and I've got my hands around the outside of my foot. Might not be easy to see. Yeah. Twistle that round. Okay, it's hard to do that in motion. So see if you can again do, it's like walking, yeah? So one foot gets raised and then the other foot gets raised. You're trying to bring your chest towards your thighs and your thighs towards your chest. So this time, don't worry about trying to get the stable back. You can allow the back to be a bit more rounded as we focus a little bit more on the movement, yeah? So hopefully you're managing with this. So walking feet, and you breathe. Feet down, and we'll do something different. So we can go on to hands and knees, and I'm suggesting a more limited cat-cow position, movement here. Yeah, so normally we kind of completely round the back and let the head come down, and then let the belly descend and the throat open and look up. I'm suggesting the upper back stays stable, back of the neck long, so you just keep looking down. And what you do is you just work with your pelvis and your lower back. So that feels like bringing the pelvis forward, bringing it back. So it's more pelvic movement than in lower back than it is in the mid or upper back. So from the rib cage upwards, that's fairly stable. But you're just getting a little bit of movement. So you're opening through the hip flexors and loosening the back, hopefully, a little bit. If you don't like that and you prefer the fuller movement, please do the fuller movement. Notice how your inner arms and outer arms feel, because they've taken quite a bit of weight yeah, through those various positions. So see if that actually now feels like a positive thing rather than oh heck, I'm having to hold my wrists in this position. Okay, so from here, got my shoulders over my wrists as we normally would in cat-cow anyway. And I'm just taking one foot behind me. Yeah, I've got my toes on the floor. So it's kind of like a half plank. And I'm rocking forward and back. So I'm getting a little bit into my calves through that rocking. I'm keeping my upper back should feel fairly stable and strong from what we've been doing previously. You don't need to bring your shoulder blades close together, but just feel into your upper back of the neck long. Always tuck your chin in a little bit if you need to. Find your own rhythm and let your breath resolve itself with a little bit of extra out breath if it's kind of helpful. Okay, and then from here back to on both knees. Just pause for a moment if you need to do the wrist malarkey and have a shake out, please do, or changing the position to knuckles, please do. And then just adjust to your second side, so second leg, and it might feel exactly the same, or it might be tougher on the toes, tougher on the backs of the legs, calves particularly, so just kind of loosening that area. Okay, so I'm going to give you an option here. So if you've really had enough of the wrists, you can come onto forearms to do the full plank version, or you can stay up There's no benefit to either, it's just a choice. So feet hip distance apart and do the same thing. So you're rolling forward and back, but you're keeping your belly in and the heels go back and forward. So you're rocking over your toes, but the whole body's sort of doing enough work to keep you stable. You go forward and back, forward and back. Done. So part of the reason we rock forward and back is we forget how long we're here. While we're still having to activate the muscles. Okay, down to one knee, down onto the other. If you can cope with this, tuck the toes under and sit back. Yeah, so this is supposed to be broadly a resting pose. So I know for some of you, you have to come up and down because it's just too much at the back of the calves, even at the back of the feet for some people. If you can manage to relax, that would be lovely. Otherwise, just keep bobbing up and down. If it's not good for the knees, then please keep coming up to rest it, but hopefully you can stay down a little bit. So we'll take the hands, I'll just place you, might help. You can come out any time. We're bringing the hands together and forward in front of you, and then just opening it out so the chest gets a little bit more open. So it's just keeping the arms straight as we get a little bit more open through the chest. And you know, you can come out of it or untuck your toes at any time. So you can keep breathing. So you can do a little bit more of an in breath as you open the arms out. Without breath. So just a couple more times. For the good bit, you can undo the toes, get the toes out again. Just get that blood circulation back into the toes. Great. Okay. So we're going to be going, I think I'll show you just briefly what we're doing with the arms. So we're going to be going down onto a belly. And initially we'll start with the hands on top of each other and the head rested. And we're doing swimming with the legs. So we're keeping the legs straight so the glutes are working. Then we'll change it. Then we'll come up off the chest. Yeah, so the chest will rise and we'll have different arm movements. We'll have the arms behind us, more like cactus arms and more like sort of super person arms reaching forward. Yeah, so hopefully that become clearer. I just wanted to get that sort of show you in advance. So coming down, stacking your hands on top of each other. Let the breath just come naturally for a moment through the belly. Do your best to make sure you're on the top of your knees, you know, so your knees are in neutral position rather than you're rolling out to your little toes or rolling out to your big toes. So you're broadly in neutral, hopefully. And when you feel ready, you start to engage. So it feels like your pelvis pubis goes down as you lift both legs off the floor. They keep broadly straight. So there's quite a weight going through center. And then you start your swimming forward kicks. So it's just a little bit of flapping the legs. You can keep your head down initially so that you've got a little bit more rest on upper body while the lower body's working. See if you can feel the outer edges of your glutes working. You'll be working your hamstrings as well as you kick a little bit. So everything's working from the belly down, including maybe inner thighs, outer thighs. Okay, let's rest the legs down. Take a couple of maybe slightly deeper breaths so the belly can kind of engage and give a little bit of respite to the lower back. And then we're going to the second part, which is raising the legs again. This time raising the chest, sweeping the arms behind you with the palms facing towards the sides of the legs, shoulders go back. You can either stay still, if that feels safer for the lower back, or you can do the swimming movement. Yeah, up to you, what feels good enough, safe enough. Breathing gently, but breathing if you can. You will need your belly in, but you still got scope for breath. Then taking the arms more into cactus arms, so that's bent arms, hands up kind of position. Continue if we can. Back of the neck's long, so you're looking down towards the ground. And then the final position is to reach the arms forward, and you can look forward this time if that feels safe with the neck. And again, choose to do the flapping of the legs or not. Okay, hands back by the side of the chest, side of the rib cage. And let's push ourselves up, back into all fours. And we're going into the full cat-cow now, so around in the back and create a little bit of an arch. So it's more important for the rounding to feel that you're releasing the back after those movements, which are potentially putting some impact on the lower back if you can't find all the support around the centre that you need. Yeah, so hopefully you were able to, but even if you were getting that support around the belly and the core more generally, you still need to just unwind a little bit. Okay, so knees together, legs together, and just doing the figure of 8. So hopefully you can always all remember that. If not, just do a snake-like movement. So it's, if you've forgotten, what you're imagining is you're drawing an 8 with your nose or your navel on the ground. So you kind of a swing of the bum from one side to the other, go diagonally, hand to hand, and then back diagonally. Just something that'll just loosen up the back and the hips, the wrists and the shoulders. It's your kind of rhythm, really. That is, it's your rhythm. Some people like it faster, some people like it slower. Some people like a big figure of 8, some people like a smaller one. So just go with what feels pleasant. You can swing your bum pelvis in the opposite direction. You get the figure 8 going in the other direction. So just do that for a little bit of winding. Enjoy that, hopefully. Cool down. Okay, so we'll just do two more movements sitting. Yeah, so pausing there and coming to sit. This time with your legs extended in front of you. Sorry, see the soles of my feet. So again, it's not easy for everybody to sit like this, but just do your best. So if it's not comfortable in the lower back, just bend your knees so that you get more of your sitting bones down. Play around with it, doing a little bit of knee raising and lowering to just see if you can play around with getting a little bit more extension through the hamstrings again. Take the arms out to the sides, you're going to hook somebody. And then coming slightly forward as you bring the hands together. So it's similar to what we were doing before, but this time we're trying to bring the back slightly forward as we kind of do a sort of slow motion clap almost. Forward and back. So just paying attention to your lower back. If that feels like there's a nasty pull or just doesn't feel good in the lower back, bend the knees a lot more or don't come forward. Just keep the back in a neutral position. Okay, and then just rest the arms down for a moment. Get your breath. Sweep the arms forward, so I've got my palms facing each other. It's almost like a rowing, almost like a seesaw, motion. Somebody's pulling you, so it looks like you're pulling me and I'm pulling you a lot. So again, you've got a little bit of movement through your sitting bones, but a little bit of work going on in the hamstrings, if that feels okay. But it's kind of work and it isn't work as you go back, so you get a little bit of respite. Looks quite good on video. Okay. And just to finish, let's rest the hands. Let's bring the feet together as we did before. You might feel different and have a little bit of a rock from side to side. Let the shoulders relax, let the arms relax, and just rock yourself into rest. Okay. Try not to overrun, but we started a smidge late, I think. So, thank you for joining for week 1, doing some strange things on the ground to give you a bit of strength. So, over the next, when you get up in a moment, and maybe in an hour or so, just see how the core feels, see how you're sitting. Can you sit freely in a chair without feeling like you're collapsing? So strength can be quite subtle, but feeling strong for most of us is a pleasant feeling, a bit more stable. Be back with you next week for a little bit more. So I'll see you then, and I'll send you the recording. Thanks everyone for joining.